11 and get ready for the musical onslaught of Metal Mayhem. Your host Carolyn will take you on a whirlwind tour of the world's metal scene. Every Wednesday night from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., you can hear some of the most unique metal anywhere, exclusively on WRLR 98.3.
Welcome to the Dave Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The Dave Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The Dave Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals.
Welcome back to the Dave Mierswa Show. I am your host, Dave Mierswa, attorney at law. I've been an attorney for about 20 years now. Can't believe it. This is a cutting-edge talk show for those of you new listeners just tuning in. Every week, I'm getting more and more listeners as this show grows. My topics are cutting edge. I have no fear of any topic. I will talk about any topic. We might have to G it up a little bit because this is a family-friendly radio station, and my show is a family-friendly radio show. So, this show is live every Sunday, 12 noon, at WRLR Studios here in Round Lake Beach. I think I got the right city. And I want to give a big thank you to the staff at WRLR. For those of you listeners just tuning in, or you listeners that went out on a binge and forgot last Sunday. That was pretty funny. That WRLR is a community radio station. And all of the DJs, all of the talk show hosts, such as myself, we are not getting paid for this. We are all volunteers. In particular, the staff here at WRLR are all volunteers. They are not getting paid. So they put in a lot of time. And all the stuff that they do behind the scenes. The light bulbs, all the way to the programming, helping with the bumpers. The bumpers are an intro. So in my intro, and that's known as a bumper. And so all the audio bumpers that people use, all of the spots, all of the PSAs, all the public service announcements. All this is done behind the scenes, and it takes a lot of time. So I wanted to give a big thank you to all of the WRLR staff. I know you don't hear this enough, and I only say thank you when it's appropriate. I'm not one of these people that goes out and keeps saying, oh, you're nice, thank you. I only do it when I mean it. So a big thank you to them, and that's because I mean it. So anyway, guys, let's get back to the topic at hand. I got about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes left in the show. And we were just before break, we were just talking about the Republican Party and how they just don't seem to get it. The old vanguard is out. But there's one thing that has happened over the last 7 years. About 8 years ago, 12 years ago, I started getting into politics. I started following politics a little bit. Then I was interested in one candidate. There was one candidate that I'm like, wow, this guy could really change America. He could bring America together. And you know who I'm talking about, President Obama. And in 8 years ago, when he first got on the scene, he had such a dynamic message. He cut across all the barriers, and I didn't vote for him, but I supported his ideas about bringing America together, both financially, racially, economically, socially, educationally. That's a word. It is now. And I really thought, wow, this president could bring America together, and we can have a new huge legacy in America. A legacy happens every 75 to 100 years in nations. And I thought he could possibly be the president to do that. So I watched him the first 2 years of the presidential in his presidential decrees and his executive orders. And then he started going around Congress and started doing more and more executive actions that are trying to thwart the Constitution, trying to thwart Congress. And then I started reading up on his past. I started watching a lot of videos on his past. I started watching the people that he appointed in his administration. So I'm not just singling President Obama out, but look, when you're at the top, you're at the top, and the buck stops with you. The buck stops with you. And I got to tell you, over the last 8 years, I have never been so fired up in my life. In my life. I'm 48 years old. I'm 48 years old, for you friends and listeners out there. And I started taking seriously, about 6 years ago, politics. And then I started seeing the true presidential person that came out. He was dividing and conquering America. He was dividing this nation. And it's a message I know you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. Him, his administration, the people that he surrounded himself with. And one of the ways to stay in power and one of the ways to push your agenda through is through conflict. And instead of bringing the police and the Black Lives Movement matter together, he stoked the flames of racism. He stoked it so much at a point that officers are afraid to go do their job. There's been an increase in crime in Chicago as a result. And I'm not saying that he can't support the Black Lives Movement matters. That's fine. But there are so many other topics out there that he could have pivoted to. And he could have brought America together. And then instead, he divided America in so many ways. And it just goes on and on and on and on. But one of the things that happened in the last 7 years is my political, social, and legal light bulb went on. My political, social light bulb in my head went on. And it's not just a light bulb, it is a floodlight. I go anywhere, anytime. And I have now stood up to these politicians. I have stood up to their political agendas to thwart the Constitution. I have been involved with civil rights litigations. I had one client where the cops came in and took his guns illegally. We got him back. We sued. We won. And I started standing up for people's civil rights. And that's when it just occurred to me that for the rest of my life, thanks to the Obama administration, he has turned on the fury of so many people out there, and which is excellent. And he's got his agenda. I said on so many previous radio stations and so many of my previous shows that I've spent 2 or 3 years trying to figure out Obama, and then finally it just dawned on me that he has his agenda. He's got his political, social agenda in front of him in his little teleprompter, and then that's all he cares about. So, and then now if you watch him, he's going to pivot and he's going to try to do the last things on his agenda. I said at the beginning of the year he's going to close Gitmo. Just 2 weeks ago on a Friday, it was announced that he let another 8 of the detainees go to Saudi Arabia. How do you like that one? Okay, he's moving to close Gitmo before the end of his term. He's also trying to move to do more furtherance in gun control. And in the Second Amendment, he's trying to destroy the Second Amendment. And Hillary, for any of you Democratic supporters out there that support the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, Hillary said that she's going to take the Obama administration on steroids. And she's going to try to do away with the Second Amendment. So if you are a Democratic leaner and you're in the clouds somewhere, This is what she talked about. Okay, with that being set aside, I got about 10 minutes left in the show here. I keep telling you folks that I don't have enough time for all the topics here. Okay, so one of the biggest things I want to get in this week in my show is this past week. I want to spend a minute and talk about this, where this past week, these anti-Trump disruptors, they are not what I consider legal protesters. They are illegal disruptors. Right here in Chicago, they blocked Lake Avenue. 20 women got arrested, and I believe a handful of other people when they chained themselves together. Now, I am talking about what's happening out in California. They tried to block people from coming to a Trump event. They blocked the streets, they blocked the sidewalks, and a number of people were arrested. And I'm telling you, I am going to get involved with this, and I'm seriously contemplating. I am looking for some people that were hurt by these protesters and their right to travel and their civil rights were trumped on. And I'm looking if I can get one or two of these. I will file a lawsuit against these legal protesters. They're not protesters. They're not legal. So I have an audio clip here from Fox News talking about the California protests that went on this week. So let me cue this up.
This is a Fox News alert. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bowling. This was the scene outside a hotel in Burlingame, California, a short while ago. The anti-Trump protesters back out again today. Crowds gathered, blocked the highway access to his venue. Trump just wrapped up his address to the state's GOP a short while ago. You can see him right here exiting the event in a scene right out of a movie. But in order to get to the event, Trump had to pull his motorcade onto the shoulder of the highway. The group got out, had to jump a barricade, winding around concrete road barriers, ducked under a fence, and entered the venue through the back door. And it's actually an interesting metaphor for the Trump candidacy. They try to block him, but somehow he finds a way in. He reacted to the scene during his address to the California GOP. Listen.
That was not the easiest entrance I've ever made. My wife called. She said, there are helicopters following you, and we did. And then we went under a fence and through a fence. And, oh, boy, I felt like I was crossing the border, actually. Yeah, it's true. I was crossing the border, but I got here. They said, Mr. Trump, it would be really much easier, sir, if you just didn't speak today and just left and go back immediately to Indiana. And I said, you know, we can't let these people down, right? Do we agree?
Well, the crowds were small compared to the bloody protest that took place last night. Let's just take a minute to look and listen to the anti-Trump protesters as they clashed with police in riot gear again last night. You know, I absolutely believe protesters who turned violent actually helped Trump, not hurt him. After all, who can honestly say I'm on the side of these animals? Now, Greg, your thoughts on that? Do you agree that this kind of helps them a little bit when they go crazy?
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't help your cause. By the way.
So there were huge protests out in California with the anti-Trump disruptors. I call that they are not legal protesters. They are illegal anti-Trump disruptors. And they all ought to be arrested. And they should all be charged with a felony. And I will make a promise to you, friends and listeners out there. If you can find me people that were on Lakeshore Drive and their civil rights were violated when these protesters interrupted their right to travel and so forth. And if I could find some of these people that were civil rights were violated when these Trump protesters were out there, I will take a personal interest in taking their lawsuit. Okay? So this is where I'm at. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the civil rights. I believe in the First Amendment. Here's where the First Amendment begins. You have a right to say anything that you want. Okay? I will protect anyone that has anything that they have to say about anyone or anything. Except, okay, there are exceptions to everything. Except when you violate where your rights begin and then they end where another person's rights begin. Okay, it's real simple. It's real simple. And you have a right to First Amendment, you have a right to protest, and that's fine. You got a right to yell as loud as you want until you lose your voice. But that ends. That ends when you start stopping other people who have a right to travel freely throughout the United States, throughout the city, throughout the streets to get to their job so they can make money to take care of their families. And this is where I get enraged. I get enraged from these anti-Trump and these anti-disruptors. They are illegal. They are illegal protests, and they all ought to be arrested, and they ought to be charged with a felony. Ought to be charged with a felony. That's my opinion. And a lot of these DAs are afraid to do that, especially in Chicago. They are afraid. They are afraid to take a stance on this. Because look at Rahm Emanuel. He got hammered, rightfully so, on a lot of these issues. But these illegal anti-Trump disruptors out in California trying to stop free speech from happening. And I'm telling you, if Trump ever comes back to the area, I will be there. And again, I'm done. I am done with these anti-Trump protesters breaking other people's rights. And if someone needs to get a hold of me, it's law540.com, law540.com. I will take a personal interest in making sure their civil rights are protected. Okay, I am all for everyone being able to voice their opinion. That's what America is all about. I disagree with a lot of people out there. There is no question. I have very educated opinions. I look into matters. I look into facts. I just don't spew other people's opinions out there and repeat it that a lot of people do. I don't have a problem with organized protesting. But when you're stopping other people from being able to go about their business and you're stopping and you're illegally out in the street or in front of businesses and you're stopping them from making money, and in particular making money to take care of their families, that's where your rights end. And that's where I come in as a lawyer. And I'm tired of it. I have filed lawsuits protecting people's civil rights. I have been involved with civil rights for the last 6-7 years. And I'm only getting started. I am only getting more fired up. I am only getting started in protecting other people's civil rights, where these protesters go out and they destroy private property and then they never get charged. I am going to shine a light on that, and if I can, I will file a lawsuit against these organizations. Okay, there are so many of these rogue, illegal, anti-establishment disruptors. You know, that's fine. But again, when you cross the line, I'm going to take a personal interest in upholding other people's civil rights. And I'll tell you this much. You know, it's one thing on the street and it's another thing in the courtroom. And I look forward to the day when I get the next civil rights case and I can say, hold on. You have a right to do X, Y, and Z, but you don't have a right to run over my client's civil rights. And that's why we have courtrooms, and that's why, another reason why I litigate. So, I am at the end of my show here. I just got a couple of minutes. Kind of went off on a tangent here, but this is a live show. And I just really wanted to get in talking about these illegal anti-Trump disruptors. And I know some of them got arrested. You know what they're only charged with? A misdemeanor. I would have slapped them with a felony if I was a local DA. So anyway, I look forward to the next couple of weeks in politics. And I want to thank all you listeners and friends out there tuning in every Sunday, 12 noon. and listening to my show, The Dave Mierswa Show. I have got to go. It is time for me to get out of the studios, and this show is coming to an end. So tune in next Sunday, 12 noon. I will have another show live, and you've been listening to The Dave Mierswa Show. Take care of yourself and your family and friends now.